This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Christmas will be here before you know it, and you know what would make a great stocking stuffer for everybody in your family? Sterling Soap. From bar soap to shave soap, beard balm to lip balm, aftershaves and lotions, Sterling Soap has something for everyone on your list. Check out their seasonal soaps that will complement the scents of your home this holiday season. And they're more than just soap. They also have a full line of coffee straight from the Sterling Roastery. Find their full line of products at sterlingsoapcompany.com.
Face Off with Firefly Publishing for another drop into the fascinating world of pro hockey history with Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2. Following his bestseller, hockey historian and writer Eric Zwig opens the doors to the Pro Hockey Hall of Fame, revealing a treasure of untold tales, bizarre incidents, and captivating trivia that will leave the most devoted puckhead astounded. Just to name drop a few of the players he's included in this book are Wayne Gretzky, Jaromir Jagr, and Bobby Hull. Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2 is a must-read for pro hockey fans who crave more than just scores and statistics. Mr. Zwig invites you to uncover the true stories that have shaped the sport, ensuring that you will never look at the game of hockey the same way again. So skate on over to Amazon.com, Target, and Walmart to get your copy now.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Yesterday's Sports on the Sports History Network. Today, I am joined again by my friend Dave DiPaolo, and we have a special treat for our listeners. Our special guest today is Hall of Fame defensive tackle, Mr. Bob Lilly. Bob played 14 seasons for the Dallas Cowboys, from 1961 to 1974. Dave and I started rooting for the Cowboys in the late 1960s, and our favorite player was Bob Lilly. Bob played in 11 Pro Bowls and was voted All-Pro 9 times. Bob played in 2 Super Bowls, winning 1, and he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1980, his first year of eligibility. The Sporting News voted Bob as the best defensive lineman in NFL history, and he is a member of the NFL 100th Anniversary All-Time Team. I could go on and on about his list of achievements, but rather than do that, we'll jump right in and start asking Bob some questions.
Mr. Lilly, we want to thank you for your patience. We had a lot of technical difficulties, but we finally got in, and we want to thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Okay, so we have Mr. Lilly, Bob Lilly, Hall of Fame defensive tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll start asking you some questions. I thought I might try to ask you some questions that you don't get asked as often. It seems like there's a lot of modern-day football fans that don't realize that most of the players from your era had to work another job during the off-season because you weren't making anywhere near the money these guys today are making. So you probably didn't have that much time for off-season training. I was curious about the off-season training. Like, did you guys lift weights, or was it mostly just running and trying to keep your weight under control during the off-season?
Well, my first few years, pardon my voice, but I've been going to my grandson's football games. They're now going into the playoffs. And,
right.
Anyway, I'm a little hoarse.
Well, I can hear you.
Back then, my first paycheck, my first contract with the Cowboys was $12,500 for the year.
Yeah.
I got a $3,000 bonus because some of the partners with Clint Murkison chipped in, and a man in Throckmorton, a rancher, Mr. Brown, He paid $500 for me to be outfitted in clothes in Fort Worth. Back then, things weren't as expensive.
Right.
So yes, I worked in oil fields in the summer out in West Texas, but I didn't work out. I did work out. We had those big cooling towers.
Right.
I would get up on top after we got through work and run wind sprints because they were about 50 to 100 yards long.
Right.
Back and forth and do that. And then one summer I was just shoveling sand, 40 acres of sand.
Wow.
Because it had blown in and blown up and had blocked some of their traffic. And so they just gave me a shovel and I went out there, and the first week I had blisters so bad I couldn't believe it. So they got thick gloves.
Right.
And then, anyway, that's the way it was for 3 or 4 years. Then I was able to start getting some better jobs in Fort Worth. But during that time, I had a history teacher he played at UT. He was a tight end.
Right.
And he was a champion racquetball player or handball player in Fort Worth.
Okay.
And so he got me started playing handball, and then we got started playing racquetball. So I played racquetball from then on, and I went down when I was working in Fort Worth. I worked at different plants, and then after work I would go down to the YMCA,
right,
and I would play an hour and a half of racquetball. And
wow.
So that I played against some of the better racquetball players in our area, Fort Dallas. And so I got pretty good at it, and I got to where I was very, very agile. I took gymnastics in college, and I took all that stuff. But I continued my racquetball all the way through my career. After practice, when we were dead tired,
right,
in Dallas, we had racquetball courts right on the field. And so,
okay.
Anyway, I would pick out some people, and they would drop out, and then I'd have to get more. And then, then I finally got down to the good ones, and we really had a good time. But that was one way of staying agile and also in shape.
Right.
So, Tony Stoutner and Coach Landry, they believed in working out.
Oh, yeah.
And so we worked out pretty hard to start with, and we did have an off-season program.
Okay.
And they had a weight room, and they had all that, and they supervised us, and we ran across country once a week. I don't even know how many miles it was, but Coach Landry ran it too, and they finally had to get a knee replacement.
Oh.
So anyway, that was pretty bad. But anyway, that's how I stayed in shape, and that's how I was able to react so quickly, and also jump guys when they were the cut block back then, and when they would cut block, I could see it, and I would just jump over it. But you learn things as you grow up.
Oh, yeah.
When you line up when I came out of the huddle, I was looking at the guy coming out of the huddle over there, and I would just watch where he was going to line up, and from where he lined up, and if he lined up on the line of scrimmage, or if he lined up a little in the backfield, or a little closer to center, or a little closer to the tackle, I knew where he was going. I knew what he was going to do. Whenever I looked at his hands, I looked at the pressure. See my fingernails?
Yeah.
Do they turn red?
Oh, yeah.
When they turn red, they're going to try to kill you.
Yeah.
So, I was about as quick as they were off the ball, and I would hit them right in the face with the top of my head, which I know wasn't very polite. Anyway, it stopped them moving real quick. It didn't really matter how big or how little they were.
Right. I never heard before that you did gymnastics in college.
I did.
All right. Okay.
Rouse.
That's true.
TCU was a fine arts school on one side and a other, but they taught gymnastics, and they taught I don't know what they call that long leather thing that they do.
Right.
Gymnastics. Beams? And then we had the high bar. We did kip ups and all that, and so I did all that. I felt like an idiot, but
well,
there were girls in there, boys, and we all did it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Dave, you have a question?
I do. I'd like to go back to the beginning. Mr. Lilly, you gave a great
a tribute to Tom Landry at his memorial service. Not a lot of people saw that. I had an old 10-foot satellite dish. My friend Ray and his dad, rest in peace to Ray's dad, he helped me set it all up. And I was able to get that live the day you spoke. You talked about his priorities in life, but for anybody out there that's listening, I want you to talk about Burnett Park and your first, what did the draft actually consist of back then? What kind of, was it just a simple phone call? Or talk about that, if you will. Okay, well, I was at TCU, and I'd had a good year. I made consensus All-American. And one of my dear friends from first we started playing it against each other. We met each other in the oil fields. E.J. Holland went to Tech. He made consensus All-American. So the Texans and the Cowboys formed my senior year, and we both made consensus All-American. But the year before, when they formed, they actually formed in '60. And we made that in. They didn't have a draft pick in '61, or we were after the draft pick, I think, because they had chosen. So they had to choose from other NFL teams and other AFL teams if they were in the AFL. And so anyway, I didn't know what to do, and I went over and talked to Coach Landry, to our Coach Martin at TCU. And I said, I don't know what to do. I mean, these people are both real nice, and he said, well, if they're offering the same amount of money, pretty much close salary, which they were, pretty low, but it was fine. Then I think I would stay with NFL, because he said, we've had two other leagues try to form here, and they both lasted about 3 years. One of them lasted 4 years. He said, if you want to stay around, where your family is and all. He said, I've noticed a lot of these players, when they go off, they don't come home. And so I did not want to do that. So I went with the Cowboys as their number one draft pick ever. And EJ went with the Texans as their number one draft pick ever. They're now the Chiefs, of course. And so that and I forget what the original thing was. But anyway, that's how I got with the Cowboys. And Coach Landry was a very, very nice person. Just talked to you just like you were one of his kids or something. Yeah. You're close with Chuck Howley. You were close with him. And in this book right here, he gave an interview. And you're in this book also. My heroes have always been Cowboys. It's a very detailed, very thick book. I got to get that. And Chuck Howley talks about he was drafted when he went to West Virginia, and he didn't know what the draft was. He said whoever he was talking with, he said, well, what is that? And he was the first pick, and the guy said, you have a chance to play professional football. And he says, I like to hear about that. He says, and to me, that's unbelievable. Here's a guy, he's a first-round pick of the Chicago Bears, and he didn't know what it was. Well, of course, I knew what it was because everybody else was drafting before. All the other teams, and we didn't have teams my senior year. They came my senior year. Yeah. They didn't draft my senior year. They formed. Yep. And so anyway, but I did know. I took a 4-star telegram, and it showed who the Bears drafted, who Baltimore drafted, and so forth and so on, all of them. And so I knew there was a draft, and sometimes it would say, and he got a salary of $25,000. I thought, oh my goodness, he's rich. So anyway, I knew what a draft was, but then I didn't know for sure that I was going to get drafted. I knew the Texans and the Cowboys had the opportunity to pick me, whether I got drafted or not, just because they were the new teams. But no, they did. I don't know what the Texans did, but the Cowboys did have a draft. Their second year, my first year. The choice that you made, did you pick the Cowboys because they were in the more established league? Yeah, because that's what I had watched. When I grew up, we finally started getting TV out where I lived, and I would watch pro football on Sunday, and I really enjoyed it. I watched the New York Giants and Baltimore Colts play in that famous game. I think it was 59. And I thought, boy, this is really good football. I really enjoy it. And so anyway, I always.
When you got to Burnett Park, and you said you were driving around, there was no door, and you said you thought you were going to have a nice big locker. You said you were going to get out of TCU because you saw Mickey Mantle on the television, and he had a big locker. You talked about that at the service, and you said there were lights you could barely see, and you said you heard his voice and you walked down. Did you think at that time that all NFL teams were training in that kind of a facility, or did you know it was, kind of a little crazy?
We had played at some other, other teams, obviously. We were in the Eastern Division. Back then, the Eastern Division was a lot different. It was Pittsburgh and Cleveland and St. Louis Cardinals and New York Giants and Washington Redskins and Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys. And then sometime during the first part of the AFL, not the first, maybe after 3 or 4 seasons, they split up and they took the Pittsburgh Steelers and they took the Cleveland Browns. And so things all changed. But anyway, going to New York was really, we went into Yankee Stadium. We played there first. We didn't play in the other stadiums like the one out in New Jersey or wherever it was. We went to Yankee Stadium and we walked by all these bronzes of all these heroes, Yankee players, and they didn't have football players out there, but they had the Yankees, and then it was like, it was just, you just go by and they're your heroes because you watch them when you're little boys playing baseball. So that was really delightful. I always enjoyed going to New York. We never got very far away from where we were staying, and we stayed not terribly far from the stadium. And they had some really good Italian places around there, which we liked. We would go eat early so that we could eat more. We could digest it.
Right.
But anyway, some of the stadiums were pretty nice, and some of them played in college stations, and some of them played in their stadiums. Some of them used baseball and football together, and there weren't many. But it was different. It was all different. And, of course, Baltimore, when we played them, they had their own football stadium. Most of them did, but we played in the Cotton Bowl, but we practiced in this the Burnett Park.
Yeah, that's it. Burnett Park.
Yeah. Well, Burnett Park, you go out across the river in south of Dallas, and Dallas wasn't that big then. And here was a condemned baseball stadium. So when you went in, when I went over there the first time, I thought, no, that can't be that. That can't be it. Surely not. It said they had a sign out there. It said Cowboy practice field. It was on. You had to exit prior off the. That's where 35 is now, but it was a major road. So we exited there, and then we went back into the practice field, and it was dirt parking. And we went down, and there was just a big door in the stadium, and you came in. And so then you walked into the locker room, which fortunately had lockers. And so we found out pretty quickly that they had rats.
Yeah.
They loved wet leather and cloth.
Yeah.
We learned to put our shoulder pads and helmets up on the pipes that ran through the ceiling. We could reach them. But it was hot and cold water pipes. And we would those up there, and we'd tie our shoes together with strings, and hang them over there because they would eat them up. And so we started feeding them. They got bigger and bigger and bigger. And they got so big they looked like dogs. And so we took our pellet, we started buying air rifles and we'd shoot them, take them out and throw them out in the woods. It was wooded behind it. So anyway, I'll never forget it. And then pretty soon we moved. I don't know if we were there 2 years. I think we were I don't know if the Texans moved out after the third year, and I'm not sure if we stayed in that thing that long. But the Texans had a locker facility and a big fence around it and a nice locker room. It was tin, but I mean it was insulated and it was very nice and large. And so the field was good. It was good green grass, and so that's where we worked out for a long time until they built Forest Lane. That was our really nice practice field, and it was built very nicely. But anyway, this was fine. We were right off Mockingbird, which runs right, Central Expressway runs right through Dallas north.
Yep.
And Mockingbird is right by SMU. Take a right, and you go down a ways, and that's where we had our locker room. And anyway, instead of running out of time, I hope I don't run out of time. I don't think at all.
No, go ahead, Mark.
Well, you mentioned Coach Landry and what a nice man he was. And I've heard you talk about a few times about how he influenced your faith in God. And I was wondering, are you still active with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes?
No, I've been active. I'd go to some of their deals, but
Right.
I'm not doing any golf tournaments now at this age of 85.
Right.
But I did 30 years of the one in Fort Worth, and I did about 25 years of the one in San Antonio, hosting golf tournaments, speaking to the high schools, Fort Worth and down there.
Right.
And then we moved out to Graham, and I still did it for a couple more years, but it was just, finally I was getting old, and it was getting kind of strenuous.
Right. Well, you did that for a lot of years.
I really enjoyed it. I worked with a lot of those kids, and the guys that were hosting, they all have a personnel there.
Right.
They're very nice people, and I think the kids got a lot out of it. We raised money. That's mainly what it was, is trying to raise money for the chapters of FCA, and I still do some things with FCA, but
Oh, that's great.
generally it's a banquet or something, and it's not, it's not a golf tournament. I did, and also worked with Coach Landry on his golf tournaments.
Right.
A lot of the players did. He had one in Austin down near the lake and one in Dallas, and so they were always a lot of fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm sure you were a great example for a lot of those kids. I don't know if you could see this picture, but you mentioned before.
Who was that 9?
Yeah, that's Sonny Jurgensen.
That's what I thought, Jerry.
Yep. You mentioned before about how you could leap over the players that tried to cut block you. I wanted to ask you about that. This was not common for someone of your size to just be able to leap over blockers like that. Is that something that just came naturally to you, or did you try to work on it in practice?
Well, in track in Throckmorton, it wasn't, a small town, but I ran the hurdles just to be running.
Okay.
I didn't know what they were. Anyway, I played basketball, football, and ran track, and high jumped and broad jumped and shot the discus and ran the 440 mile relay, 440 leg of it. And anyway, like I told you earlier, I started playing racquetball in college my freshman year.
Right.
And so that makes your brain work really fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you get to where like somebody falls down, you just jump over them.
Right.
So, it's things like that. And I think that really helped me. Plus, when we got Ernie Stoutner, he believed in, lots of different exercises, lots of different, like hitting a sled, roll.
Yeah. Drills.
Hit the ground and jump up, hit the ground, jump up.
Right.
And then we had a little deal that you run the ropes sideways, hop through them. We did everything every day. And all that, I think, but mainly it was like I could generally tell when they were going to cut block.
Right.
Not all the time. But even if I couldn't, I could see it quickly, and I'd just jump. I mean, I could jump over them. And they always try to leg whip you when you do that.
Right.
But just, every once in a while you stomp them in the back of the leg and they quit.
Oh, yeah.
So I got tired of it.
Yeah.
I think, you let them do it once, you think it's an accident. Twice, maybe it's an accident. Third time, no accident. And so you can step on their calf or their hamstring or something.
That's right.
I mean, that's anyway.
Okay.
I don't think I ever got in a bad fight. I got maybe in one little skirmish, but I don't believe in that. It's not part of the game.
Right.
I did not put up with people being dirty. I do not put up with that.
Absolutely.
Ray Mansfield, Mr. Lilly, said he once was playing in might have been an exhibition game. He wasn't sure. He said he got you under the chin. He came up, probably the only good shot he ever had on you. He said in all the years he played. He said, and you step back a little and you slugged him. And I said, Bob, I can't believe you did that. And he tells that story.
Yeah, he did, and we became dear friends. I had a lot of. I mean, it was a lot different. I don't know if it's a lot different, but we were all close. It was like I played in the Pro Bowl so many times that I got to know everybody, and it's like, you go play and you know 2, 3, 4, 5 guys on each team.
Yeah.
And it's really nice. I mean, it's kind of like a brotherhood. I mean, I think all those things together made me just really cherish my 14 years with the Cowboys. I never got over it. I grieve every time one of my teammates passes, and we've got some teammates now in pretty bad trouble. And, and I'm pretty lucky, really, to be 85 years old and still be in pretty good health. But you never know at this point. I mean,
it's amazing. It's actually amazing if you want to know the truth. When folks ask you about the ice game, because you always get asked about that, when the first thoughts of the ice game come to your head, are they more about the game itself, the football, or more about the weather conditions? What pops into your head first?
Weather.
Weather.
We could argue about the game, but I don't think the game had much to do with it. It really was like the early morning. George Andrew gets up and goes to Mass. Coach Landry always has a devotional before her meal. He has some speaker come. But George was Catholic, and he went to Mass, and several of our boys were. And he came back, and I was showered and starting to dress, and he came back and he said, Bob, it's a little cool out there. And I said, oh, really? So I thought it was supposed to get down last night to 3 below or something like that. He said, it might be a little cooler than that. He went in and got a glass of water, came back in, and we were in a Holiday Inn in Appleton. And he threw it up on the window, and it froze. Almost all of it froze before it hit the bottom. Yep. And so he said, Bob, I'll tell you what, it's 17 below out there, 16 below out there right now, and it's supposed to get down to about 20. And he said there's going to be a 35-mile-an-hour wind. And he said, so anyway, that all happened. It did happen. And the chill factor was something like 40 or 45 degrees, 38 degrees, whatever it was.
Yeah. And
it was so cold, and we had our coaches. I mean, they didn't have any idea, I don't think. We took, long handle underwear, but no gloves, no hat, no, toboggan to go under your helmet or earmuffs or any of that. And fortunately, we had some saran wrap. Jack Estridge always had saran wrap in case it was wet, so that you could wrap that around your feet and then put your socks on, and you wouldn't get the wet feet deal. And so we put saran wrap on, we put on our long handles, and we went out, and we froze to death for a minute. Well, we didn't go. We went out. George and I decided, George Andrew, my roommate, we decided that we were going to go out there with nothing on, no gloves, we didn't have any gloves, nothing around our neck, not even want the long handles. We go out there and we stay about 5 minutes, and we're back in. We come back out with everything we could find. But that wasn't much. We took the stuff they pull up on your legs. It's kind of stretchy. We put that over our head. It kind of served as a toboggan, but it was just thin cloth.
Right.
Put our helmet on, and they had on turtlenecks, and they had a little skull cap. And then they had on gloves. They looked like rubber gloves, kind of like light-colored, light brown.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.